Picture this. You're just minding your own business, right? And then suddenly, that internal clock just starts ticking. Your pulse elevates. A choice that literally didn't even exist 10 minutes ago now feels like an absolute matter of life and death. It's wild. But hey, welcome to The Explainer. Today we're applying the FOMO filter. We're going to break down the anatomy of what is essentially a psychological heist. We're looking at exactly how your attention gets hijacked, how your judgment gets totally squeezed, and most importantly, how we can reclaim our minds. So let's just dive right into the crime scene.
So, have you ever felt a decision become incredibly urgent before you even fully understood what you were deciding on? Because, well, that's the exact moment this mental heist kicks off. It doesn't just ask you to make a choice. No, it tries to forcefully speed up your thinking. You get this intense panic, like a ticking clock in your head. And in that frantic state, your brain actually stops processing facts and starts treating uncertainty like physical danger. It's kind of like standing in a crowded room with a dozen voices all screaming your name at the exact same time. Exactly. And in the middle of all that chaos, the perpetrator uses one very specific, highly calculated weapon. Just 5 little words. What if I miss out? Now, the human mind is literally hardwired to react violently to loss. A missed chance actually feels so much heavier to us than an equal gain feels pleasant. So the second this question gets planted in your head, boom, it triggers your deepest survival instincts. It artificially accelerates your thinking, basically demanding speed way before you have any clarity. So let's formally profile our suspect here. FOMO, the fear of missing out. Look, this isn't about some healthy curiosity. It is a hostile psychological hijack. We're talking about a decision distortion caused by imagined loss rather than actual value. Notice that key word there, imagined. The pressure builds up before you even know if the option is actually any good for you. It's a pattern in judgment, a distortion. It's definitely not a genuine property of the opportunity sitting right in front of you.
All right, moving on to the modus operandi, how FOMO breaks in.
Think about it like this. You're sitting in a totally quiet house, and suddenly you hear a door slam shut in another room. You have absolutely zero idea what just happened, but the sound alone makes you instantly whip your head around. The mind reacts to the mere possibility of loss before it actually examines the thing itself. That's the hike.
Right, exactly. And to use a bit of a noir analogy here, FOMO acts like a spotlight in a dark room. Think about it. A calm decision lets you hold multiple things in your mind at once. You weigh what you gain, what you lose, what your actual priorities are. But FOMO totally interrupts that wide view. It flips on this harsh, blinding spotlight. Suddenly, one single object looks incredibly intense and super rare, but the darkness hides the rest of the room. It totally hides the trade-offs. Urgency compresses your thinking, practically blinding you to any alternatives.
Oh, absolutely. Another way to visualize this compression is like looking at a map app on your phone. If you zoom all the way in on one specific road, that road looks massive. It looks like the most important highway in the world, but you've completely lost the surrounding context of the entire map. That doesn't mean it's the best route. It just means urgency has enlarged this one tiny detail and literally shrunk everything else out of existence. Let's look at the cold, hard facts of how this works. There are 3 specific tactics urgency uses to force a rushed decision. First up, it shrinks your attention, creating immediate tunnel vision. You just stop asking what matters overall and only look at what's right in front of your face. Second, it inflates the downside of waiting. Taking a simple pause suddenly feels like this massive personal failure. And third, it weakens your ability to compare. Instead of rationally asking, hey, is this option actually better? You start freaking out and asking, wait, can I afford to miss this? And the criminals pulling this off have a very specific recipe to make all that happen. They mix scarcity right in with social comparison. Scarcity tells you, hey, this may never be available again. Meanwhile, social comparison is whispering, everyone else is choosing it, so maybe I should too. It's literally like standing outside a closed room and hearing loud laughter inside. You don't even know what the joke is, but the sound of others enjoying themselves makes you feel deeply excluded. Your mind ends up confusing that desperate desire for belonging with an actual necessity. Which brings us to the interrogation, cross-examining urgency. We really need to methodically separate real, genuine threats from manufactured artificial panic. So think about the difference between a fire alarm and a loud rumor. A real fire alarm points to a real problem, right? If the alarm goes off, the evidence should be visible somewhere. You're going to smell smoke or you're going to see flames.
Precisely. But FOMO? FOMO is just a loud rumor. It creates a massive amount of noise, but noise alone does not prove danger. It's just a feeling that's demanding you act, but it completely fails to present any of the visible evidence that a real fire alarm would.
Let's dissect the evidence side by side.
On one hand, we have real urgency. This is where consequences genuinely increase with time. We're talking an immovable deadline, a real safety issue, or a truly disappearing chance. In these cases, delay actually changes the outcome. But on the other hand, we have manufactured urgency. This comes entirely from pressure, not actual consequence. It sounds like phrases such as, "Oh, everyone is talking about this right now," or "If you don't decide today, you'll regret it." The pressure is just bolted onto the choice to make you move faster.
Which brings us to what I like to call the ultimate interrogation question. If I remove the deadline, does the decision still actually matter? Think about that for a second. If you take away that ticking timer and the choice suddenly seems, boring or unnecessary, well, then the urgency was doing all the heavy lifting. The choice itself was completely empty.
We can slice right through the panic using this checklist. FOMO absolutely loves to disguise itself as wisdom, but it completely falls apart under questioning. If an opportunity has real value, the reasons stay crystal clear even after you take a pause. But if it's FOMO, those reasons immediately blur the second you slow down. Real value fits smoothly into your priorities. FOMO actively hijacks them. With real value, your attention actually grows as you understand it better. But with FOMO, the urgency only grows when you are uncertain.
Oh man, we have all seen this play out. The infamous group chat investment trap. You know the one. Someone shares this limited time business offer. The social momentum in the chat makes it seem incredibly credible. Then the arbitrary deadline makes it feel rare. And finally, the fear of being left behind while your friends somehow get rich makes it deeply, deeply personal. By that point, you aren't even evaluating the opportunity anymore. The choice is just mutated into a toxic, frantic test of speed and status.
All right, let's talk about the getaway, hitting the mental brakes.
So, the crime has been fully exposed. Now, we make our getaway. Here is the massive paradigm shift you need. Urgency is not the enemy here. It is simply a dashboard warning light in your car. Now, a warning light is helpful, right? It tells you to pay attention. But if you stare exclusively at the flashing light, you still don't know what's actually wrong with the engine. Urgency should trigger your attention, absolutely, but you must never let that flashing signal automatically steer the car for you.
For sure, because if you let the panic steer, there is a massive long-term toll. Look at the hidden costs of acting too fast. First off, you pay with your attention, because you completely ignore any trade-offs. Second, you pay with your confidence. After the dust settles, you have absolutely no idea why you actually acted in the first place. And honestly, worst of all, you pay with learning. If you constantly rush and let pressure win, you are literally training your mind to trust panic over actual reasoning. You stop improving your judgment entirely.
Which brings us to the anchor rule of this entire explainer. Really internalize this. FOMO is a signal, not a conclusion. You don't have to fight the feeling of FOMO to think clearly. You just have to disarm it by refusing to let it make the final decision. The feeling points somewhere, yes, but it does not get to sign the contract.
So the next time that darkroom spotlight flicks on and that internal clock starts ticking, you now have the exact tool to shut it down. Ask yourself this lingering question. Is this truly important, or does it only feel loudly immediate? That is exactly how you stop being a victim of manufactured panic. Empower yourself, reclaim your time, filter out the noise, and take control of your attention. Thanks for joining us for this explainer. See you next time.